Welcome to Manufacturing Excellence, a podcast by Seraph Consulting where we interview people pushing industrial businesses forward. Guests include operational experts, those investing in and financing products, as well as specialists with unique insights to help navigate some of the most difficult points in a business's lifetime. Today's guest is Chris Cummins, a manufacturing industry veteran with over 30 years of experience in leadership positions including CEO, President, SVP, Global Operations, and General Manager. Chris has managed multi-site P&Ls ranging from 50 million to 500 million with global teams and has deep expertise with Lean and Six Sigma. He's currently the president and CEO of Micronics Engineered Filtration Group, which is a leader in industrial filtration, as well as an operating partner at the middle market private equity firm Vance Street Capital. During this episode, he'll share operationally minded leadership principles and tactics for growing industrial businesses organically, key considerations when acquiring and successfully integrating new businesses. The wide-ranging discussion will include lessons learned from his time at Danaher Corporation, which he has pulled forward into his other executive roles. His high energy is infectious, so without further ado, my interview with Chris Cummins. Thanks, Chris, for joining. It would be helpful for the audience if you could just outline what your role is now and some of the positions you've held before.
Sure. Good afternoon, Justin. Great to see you again. Hope you're doing well. So my name is Chris Cummins. I'm currently the president and CEO of Micronics Engineered Filtration Group. It's a portfolio company at Vance Street Capital, private equity firm based out of Los Angeles, California. So my day-to-day job for the past 3 years is running this business and helping it grow and improve each and every day. But I'm also an operating partner for Vance Street Capital as well, where I help oversee and coach and nurture the CEOs and their executive teams of two of our platforms, one called Spectra Aerospace and Defense, which we've grown from nothing over the last 2 years to now making 4 acquisitions. It's a great platform we're building there in aerospace and defense. And also our general aviation platform. And we started with a 50-year-old family-run business called McFarland Aviation. And since then, we've done 3 other acquisitions and continuing to grow that business. And that's been a lot of fun. So that's my role, both from a day-to-day opportunity, as well as from time to time, helping as an operating partner for other Vance Street portfolio companies.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think both the companies you mentioned, it sounds like acquisitions have been an important part of the strategy there at Vance Street Capital. What are some of the lessons you've learned about making an integration of an acquisition go well in manufacturing businesses?
It's very important. And certainly both my own company, my platforms, Micronics, as well as the Vance Street team are always looking for strategic acquisitions that will complement current businesses that we have or expand our leadership role in markets that we serve. Vance Street typically focuses on 3 specific areas. They focus in on medical technology, industrial technology, where my business is at, or really aerospace or aviation technology. So they're always looking for opportunities, typically founder-led businesses, to help them grow. I'm also looking for an exit because of their maybe second or third generation and no exit plan, and that we can take on that opportunity to help them grow and continue the legacy of the business. So we're thinking about the integration of a business. Having just gone through that, last year, Micronics was extremely fortunate to make a really strategic acquisition of National Filter Media. It was one of our strategic competitors in the North American industry. And you have to be really clear upfront, as we were, on our investment thesis. So what is it about this business, this acquisition? It's going to create value for our company, value for our investors, value for the customer. And that's where it all kind of comes where the rubber hits the road. So looking at that investment thesis and making sure really from day one that your team is laser focused on the due diligence process all the way through the integration. And typically there's multiple integration work streams that you have to consider. Things that you just take for granted when you're in a day-to-day business and kind of things are just kind of flowing and operating very smoothly. But you've got to think about, hey, we got to review the accounting, the tax, and the quality of earnings of this new business that we're looking to acquire. We have to look at their insurance, the benefits of the employees as you merge 2 companies. How do you make sure those benefits resemble one company and that everyone is treated with fair and equity? You got to do a deep dive environmental assessments of the company, the land, the assets that you're acquiring. So that's an important thing to do as well, because you don't want to start doing something that all of a sudden has a very bad surprise a year or 2 down the road. Of course, information technology, cybersecurity systems, ERP systems, you do a lot of that reviews today. It's such an important part of any company's ability to function and run their companies day to day. So cybersecurity is an important part of what we do as well. Typically, we'll find gaps because these are small, family-ran businesses that don't necessarily have professional infrastructure put in place. We have to address that very early on to secure the business. We do everything from operational deep dives, supply chain deep dives. Even with the teams that we're getting ready to acquire, we're very diligent about even doing background checks. So all those things have to happen really in a short, compressed amount of time to due diligence. But then You make that plan and then you acquire the company, the deal is signed, the ink is all on the paper, and it's now part of your company. You have a lot of heavy lifting to do. And typically the first 100 days or so of that new relationship are very important. You really want to bring the new company into the fold of what you've done very quickly. And the best way to do that is really about communication of what you're going to be doing, what's your vision, why you bought this asset, why it's so important. Make the new teammates who are probably to some degree, to some amount of shock, going through a tremendous amount of change in their life. What does this mean to me? Am I going to lose my job? And what does this do? To calm them down and make them a part of the process as you go forward. So the communication to your own teammates is very important. Also, you got to communicate to your customers. Possibly some of them are even new customers. Introduce yourself, make sure you establish a good relationship and let them know, rest assured that we're going to continue the strong customer service that you've had from this company we just bought going forward. You got to communicate to your suppliers, make sure they're connected with you, and there could be changes in how you do things. You might have gone from 6 suppliers to now you've got 20 or 30 suppliers. And then you got to figure out which ones do you keep, which ones are the right ones for the business going forward. So it's really important to have that communication and to keep everyone aligned. So a lot of hard work. Our team at Micronics just went through a lot of heavy lifting with the help of some of our partners, much like Seraph, who have helped us integrate businesses very quickly and professionally without missing a beat on customer service, and keep that communication very strong throughout the entire process. And Vance Street as a whole, last year, made 10 acquisitions. So they've become very good at this and doing it the right way and moving it forward. It's best for the business.
One of the challenges that comes with acquiring a new business, especially maybe if there was excess capacity in the sector when you're acquiring, is reconsidering the footprint there. How do you maintain a culture when you do have to do some consolidation, or not even maintain, but set a new culture, one where people are still excited to come into work when actions like that may be necessary?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've had to go through that ourselves. When you're buying a company, you're buying it for the business, for the team, for the people that are part of it, for the product or the service that they provide. So you want to maintain all that. However, sometimes when you buy a company, it might have several different sites and you marry it with your company. It might have other several sites. You may have to take a hard look and say, okay, what's the best for the business? How can I really take advantage of our capabilities, our excellence, our solution, our value proposition? And what does it make sense for us to do going forward? And in order to do that, you have to do an assessment of your footprint, of your capabilities, of your technology that you might have. And really what you got to do is going to be very unbiased. The company that was acquired might be the best solution of what they have versus maybe what you had at the base company. And when you do that, you do a lot of pre-planning, do a lot of analysis, talk to your team, be very open-minded, be very humble in what you think you know, and make sure you ask a lot of questions. And really, again, put together a very solid plan and put together various options and look at the scenarios. And what does the data tell you? What do your partners tell you? What does the board of directors have an opinion on? That's also an important part of your decision-making process. And then if you have to make a decision to rationalize or optimize a footprint, you have to make that decision. It's best for the business. Anything that doesn't help the business grow, something that might be a drag on cash flow, a drag on resources, creates any type of waste in the enterprise as a whole, you owe it to the team. You owe it to your business, to your customers, your employees, your investors to do what's right. And sometimes, again, makes a requirement for a hard decision to shut down a facility. But if you do that, you have to do it again with a very clear plan. You communicate that very openly. You can't send an email when that happens. That's a face-to-face discussion with your team. I had to do that myself over the last year and meet with various sites and talk to them about the good news or bad news that might be affecting their site. And you have to be able to stand in front of them and take the hard questions, but also have a plan and treat them humanely. Have an integration plan. What does that mean? How long will it take? What's the timing look like? What does it mean for you? What will we do to take care of you as you exit the business? Potentially, we, for example, have offered relocation packages for employees to stay with our company, but join us at another location because we want that talent to stay with us as much as possible. We've had people relocate from Utah out to Tennessee or to Mississippi or Louisiana or from Connecticut up to Maine. So that's always very possible. And wherever we can do that, we try to do that. So those are always hard decisions, but again, at the same time, it's the best thing for the business. And if it's best for the business, you have to think about the entire employee workforce. So say you've got 1,000 employees and maybe these types of decisions affect maybe 100, maybe 150 employees. It's a tough thing, but you have to also do what's right for the other 800, 850 employees that will stay with the business and still be a growing, strong business going forward. So that's how I view it. Those are very hard decisions. And the best thing to do is just be very transparent and honest about it and stay very close to your team.
And how much of that plan is able to be developed at the due diligence stage versus when you actually sign the ink and own the business and are maybe confronted with some details that you weren't privy to prior to the deal getting closed?
I think the best teams typically have a good idea, have a framework due diligence. Due diligence periods typically only last 60, no more than 90 days. They want to get that process from start to finish done pretty quickly for good reason. If you think about it, you're having to cram a lot of data and a lot of information and site visits and all the things that you can do over a very compressed amount of time, where you're also still running your day-to-day business. So it's a lot of extra work, a lot of sleepless nights and long weekends and things like that. So I think you always have a framework. We've always had a framework as to what we think, but we allow for the fact that once we do own the business and we've had some more time with it, maybe a month or two, that we might change our mind, or it might change a little bit. We might have thought it was A, B, and C, and instead it's just A and B. It's not going to be C, because C is a little different now that we've got a little more detail to it. You deal with the information as best you have doing due diligence, but you also make sure you course correct if needed in your first, say, 100 days or so of actually owning the company and making sure you have the right plan.
Got it. And what has the difference been like working for PE-backed businesses versus some of your earlier career when you're working for a larger conglomerate or just
Sure.
specialized manufacturer?
I've been really fortunate. I've worked with some very strong public companies. Probably the one I would point out as being a real ground for great leadership and just a great process. I ran two divisions at the Danaher Corporation, which is probably one of the most leading edge companies as it relates to operational excellence and strategic growth. And having been with that company and then subsequently other companies that were either bought and or were part of private equity, I see a lot of characteristics and skills that I learned at Danaher being very much the same as I use every day in my PE-backed business. At Danaher, we always very focused on removing waste and certainly trying to grow the business. It doesn't change at all when you're owned by private equity. If anything, that same sense of urgency is amplified because you're typically in a very time-sensitive type process where you typically got 4 to 5 years on a PE-backed business to create value, to grow it, to make it better, to organically grow the business, to do more tuck-ins, do acquisition. And certainly Danaher was very much the same way. They did several acquisitions each and every year, and that was an important part of who they were. So very similar. I think it's also very important to be operationally minded, much like it was with other companies I'd worked for, Robert Shaw Controls early in my career, certainly Danaher, Symmetry Medical. You have to be very operationally minded. That's very important because driving lean and continuous improvement was a part of my culture at those public companies as much as they are now today, being a private equity backed company. It's an important part of what we call our playbook. At Vance Street is to make sure we're driving value, and to drive value, you got to take out as much waste as possible. So that's a very important part as well. You're problem solvers. The problem solver is always rise to the top. People love to be around other people who can help them solve a problem. Customers love us because we help them solve problems. Internally within our company, we like teammates who not just find problems, there's a lot of those people, but we like the people who help us solve the problems each and every day and prevent problems from reoccurring. So that's very important. So we have to hold people to be accountable. That's a very important part as well in private equity, as in my mind, as it was with the very best of the public companies that I worked for. As with Danaher, our roles in PE-backed companies is to be a team builder. We're there to build a team. You don't scale a business without your team. Foundational things is around talent and having the best and brightest people you can around you. So we have to build our team up, recruit, develop the best talent, and where we find there are problems, we have to top grade as well and make sure that we're moving forward successfully with the best talent we can have. So I think all those things are all the same amongst the best companies. And the fact that their private equity has that capability, I think that public companies that are the best ones have the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. And on recruiting people, been a challenge for a lot of the manufacturing businesses we've talked to over the last year. What are some of the ways that you've been able to bring the right people into Micronics and other businesses you've led?
Well, the most important thing we've done, Justin, is we've kept all the good ones. People always talking about, new customers. I want a new customer. Take care of the ones you got. Same thing applies inside of your own business. Take care of the people you've got. We've been very fortunate to continue to promote, develop, and retain our best talent. That's been an important part of our success. And through the acquisitions that we've done with National Filter Media, we got a great amount of talent. And we made sure we put our arms around that team as much as possible and retained that team. And there's a lot of people that are going after that talent. We were going through this change and the integration. People were being aggressive and trying to take our best talent away. And we lost one or two, but as a whole, we did very, very well to retain our talent. And what we do to attract new talent, we look for people that are very smart, quite honestly. We want smart, hungry, humble people. And I say all that because you can be smart and be a little lazy. We don't want that. We can be smart and be overly confident. We don't want that either. We want smart, humble people that are always curious to learn and evolve and are hungry in the fact that they want to do more. They want to take chances. They want to drive a business or a functional group forward. And we love people like that, people that are competitive, people that are ambitious, people that want to be accountable to what they do every day and feel like that's part of the game that we're playing, because it is. And we want to win every game we're playing. We've had to deploy some things over the last couple of years with our company that I think have been really successful to help us refine our process. Things I learned at Danaher, for example, we did a lot of assessments on the front end and did a lot of kind of behavioral and situational type interviews. So we deployed that same process as well here at Micronics, where we utilize some outside assessment firms to help the candidates take a quick kind of test. And we use that test not to say that this person's awful, this person's great, more of a matter of just kind of guiding the interview process. It helps us find, here's an area we want to dig into. We want to peel this back a little bit and kind of see how they react to certain situations. It also helps certainly provide some type of kind of almost a cognitive skills test as well. So how intelligent are they? How do they handle pressure? How do they take time-based type skills tests, which is also very important because in the world that we live in, time is the enemy. We want to move very fast. So having those kind of assessments has really helped us. And it's helped us retain good talent. Even with our hourly operators, an important part of what we do is our direct labor workforce. That's where we really add value to our products. And one thing we've done there that's been very successful is we've put in referral programs to hire people that they know and give our employees who have referred those people additional money, like thousands of dollars. Some people have made 2 or 3 referral hires and they've made several $1,000s. It's great. That's important because what we've learned is that people who hire, who recommend other people, they're stickier because they've got a friend at work. They know someone or they're related maybe by a second or third cousin or whatever it might be. That's fine. That's great. The stickier they are, the more loyal they are, the better they are for our company and for our customers. So we've deployed that as a way of trying to get even better talent into our workforce. And we've hired quite a few people actually over the past, I'd say 12 to 18 months as we've been growing organically, even before the acquisition pretty strongly. So we've done that. And then with our workforce as well, we put in a pay for skills. So we have operators that know various skills, work in different work centers, do different things. And the more they learn, we track that. We have a skills training matrix in our company. We display that. It's an open scoreboard so people can see, why is Mary Ann, a 4 out of 4 and on Betty Sue's only a 1 out of 4? Well, because she's learned how to do 4 things and she's very proficient. She's tested out. And because of that, the higher the skill, the higher the pay. And that's very important. And people, they recognize that. Everybody always wants to make more money. I appreciate that. But we also want to make sure that there's a reward for those who aren't afraid of running multiple machines, doing different jobs, who are very agile. That allows us to be very agile with our customers, have better customer service, better quality, better capability. So we pay for that. And that's an important way for our employees who are currently in a role to continue to progress while staying with us. So it's very important as well. So anyhow, there's a couple of examples to share with you that we've done that we think have been successful, but I think there's probably more. We need to keep on evolving as well.
That's awesome. The assessment that you are doing to bring people in, it sounds like there's a part that's skills based and then a part that's behavior based. Is that role specific typically?
As a matter of fact, I'll share with you who we use. One of the companies at least we use is Wonderlic, the Wonderlic test. And they've done millions of these tests and done millions of kind of graduates of what roles. We can put it, hey, we need a materials manager. Okay, materials manager. What are the skills that we feel are important? So we give them our input. And then they bounce that off of basically their algorithm and historical information on successful candidates who have been materials managers in that role. That gives them a profile. Then they basically assemble this test process that we give to our candidates. They then take that pre-interview and then we go from there. So it's a great way, again, of having an interview based on facts and data. As we've hired people from that, we've utilized that as a development tool as well, because it will identify things that, like none of us are perfect. We all have things we can be better at. So we utilize that as well as a development tool. When they come on board, we'll say, hey, Jim, we noticed that there were some 1 or 2 things that might be an opportunity for you to continue to grow. We want to invest in you. So here's how we can invest in you. It could be training, it could be exposure or something. It could be going back for a graduate degree, just to kind of help them be a little bit better at their functional areas. So those are all things that we do to use that for as well. And Wonderlic is one example that we use for some of those testing of candidates.
Yeah, that's great. I know the military does bonuses for skills, just like you were talking about as well.
Right.
You learn Arabic, you get an extra added to your pay. So that's awesome. I've heard chief executive officers be called chief reminding officers before. It sounded like there were some important things that you were talking about, being a problem solver, being humble, smart, lean. Are there any other things that you find when you're talking with all ranks of your company that you're repeating to emphasize what approach you're taking and the most essential parts of succeeding?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty transparent about the three things that are important in our business that help us create value. So we talk about that. We don't try to hide behind one person to see our numbers, the rest do. So we talk about what makes our business great. Customer service, of course, we measure that in regards to how we go to the market, our on-time delivery, our lead times, our reduction in past dues or no past dues, keeping our warranty costs low, taking care of our customers should something go wrong. So those are all things we talk about, certainly to make sure they're focused on that customer service aspect. And internally, what we talk about that's important to us for our business, we talk about really three things. What are the three things we want to accomplish in this company each and every day that we should be thinking about? We talk about cash flow. Cash flow is important. You can't run a business without constant cash flow. Number two, we talk about margins. We want to improve, get better, rework, take out quality defects, take out scrap, take out waste. How can we expand our margins? How do we make it a company more profitable so we continue to grow? And then, of course, the third thing we talk about all the time is sales revenue. So how do we grow our business organically? How do we not just get new customers, but how do we, the customer we have who's really good, how do we do more for them? How do we take more things off their plate with our service offering, our design offering, our capital equipment, our aftermarket products? How can we take more from that customer to help their life be a lot easier and have a single point, a one-stop shop to some degree to make them better? So we talk about that a lot as an important part of who we are and making sure that things that we do positively impact those three kind of pillars of our business. So those problem solving and continuous improvement, we talk about those things at all time, and we're obviously accountable to making sure we do the right thing.
When you're spending your day now as a CEO, you've been a COO and other executive positions before. How are you spending your day now, and what are some of the differences in your current role and versus COO role previously?
Yeah, there's some similarities, of course, because I'm very schedule focused. Typically, I have a certain routine that I go through, look at metrics, look at dashboards, look at Power BI reports. You get a sense of what's going on. I kind of set my schedule every day. I have certain things that are pretty much rigorous, certain times of the day, certain days of the week that I check in on sales, ops, supply chain, engineering, finance and accounting, things like that. So I have certain routines that I've set up with my team. We kind of like that cadence and that rigor. You can kind of count on it, kind of feel comfortable. We're always going to have a conversation, either daily or at least once a week. So we have certain things that we've set up in our calendars and we kind of run by that, right? They're short meetings. They're not hours. They're typically 15 to 30 minutes where we're talking about our team. So we have that kind of cadence. That's a normal part of my day. I also make time to spend kind of freelancing. What that means is, hey, just walking around the shop floor, seeing what's going on, understanding what our products are doing, maybe learning something about a product I didn't know, a new build that we're doing, a new product we transferred from one site to another, learn from our operators, our supervisors, our engineers about that as well. I spend time, I call it in the office, kind of bullpen area, stopping by someone's desk, pulling up a chair, seeing what they're doing, maybe just having a casual personal conversation with them or asking them, hey, what are you working on right now? In learning about what they're doing or trying to help pull something off their plate. I can help get quickly decided or supported or approved or whatever it might be. And it keeps that rapport very high with our team because I'm very visible. I don't hide in my office. I go out and see we have several facilities in Mexico, USA, and Canada. And each and every week, usually Monday through Thursday or Sunday through Thursday, I'm typically traveling to see my teams in those sites. So I spend time with them, not just in our headquarters in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I think it's an important part of what I do. The thing that's different as a CEO is that I spend probably a fair amount of time as well communicating with the board of directors, communicating with them on acquisitions, on the market, on budgets, on whatever's going on in our business. As an operating partner for Vance Street, I also communicate and participate in other meetings for these other businesses that I talked to you about earlier, sitting on their board meetings, sitting on their budget calls. I help coach up their CEO on hiring talent or a process around succession planning or what can you do around strategic pricing, things like that they may not be as aware of, but I can help coach them and give them the tools to move into their own business. Those are things that are a little bit different. As well as being a CEO, I spend probably more time than I did as a COO or as a VP of ops. I spend a lot more time on the commercial side of our business with our customers, in the field with our customers, talking to them, visiting with them, talking about special projects. We put in pricing analytics and a pricing engine. So I see a lot more of that data in detail and how we tier customers, how we think about our competitors and what that means and how we go to market. So I spend a lot of time with my sales leaders in Latin America, North America, and Europe, talking about what we're doing in each of their districts or each of their regions. They have different challenges and you have to kind of make sure that you're staying in tune with that as well. So that's probably a difference. I think probably more than anything else as to what I did in the past was the interaction with the board, and certainly interaction probably now more than ever with our commercial teams, our customers, to make sure we stay on top of things.
And when you're managing these groups, is Micronics structured in a way where it's one company where all the sales are managed centrally at a unified back end, I guess, with how the company is administered?
Yeah, it is. It takes a lot of work to do that. When I came on board first in 2020, our company wasn't that way. It was segmented by product type. So we had certain on the wet filtration, certain on the dry filtration, and the service was kind of down the middle. So we kind of brought all that together. In my first year, I had to do a commercial strategy reorganization, how we went to market, what our teams looked like, and really break down some silos, quite frankly, and kind of reorganize ourselves. So we did go to the market as one company, as Micronics, not as a brand of companies, but as one company. We do a lot of work around how we organize ourselves around just a quoting process. It was very fragmented. We, in the past, had basically 2 to 3 individuals in our entire company who did all the quoting. And God forbid they're on vacation or busy or whatever. That quote could take weeks. And there were even some stories about some quotes getting lost and maybe taking months to do. And that's not good customer service. Customer service, it's your first opportunity to impress a customer, quickly answering their questions and saying, yes, we can do this. And here's how and why and when. So we had to really fix that. And that was a big part of year one, is getting that commercial front end fixed very quickly so that the customers would quickly have a response from Micronics as one company on wet filtration, dry filtration, service filtration, capital equipment, aftermarket parts. That way it was very quick. And that responsiveness means a lot. Just like you and I are consumers, we don't want to wait for things. And our customers aren't any different, right? They prefer to have a quick answer that they might have to pay a little bit more for or whatever. They'd much rather have that than wait weeks to get an answer because they can't have that delay. So that was an important part of what we did differently as we integrated. And certainly now as we acquired National Filter Media, they had a great team. We had the challenge, of course, bringing that team into one company. We did that successfully in the second quarter of last year. Quite frankly, a lot of the talent from National Filter Media, they became very much in the higher leadership roles because they were very good and they earned that opportunity. But we had to put some process behind it as well. So we had different ERP systems, different ways again of quoting again. So do all that hard work again. We had to put a quoting system back into place that was transparent across the entire organization, no matter if you're in Brazil or in Ontario, Canada, or in Houston, Texas, same system, same details, same speed. So that was an important part of their success to be able to do that out in the field. And then, of course, again, reaffirm our market strategy. Where are we going to be power players? What were our power lanes going to be? And make sure that everybody was aligned to that. The reason we would do that is because that was a better fit for what we provided, our service, our products to our customers. And there are certain markets that are, quite frankly, just more attractive. You know, all customers are loved. Some customers are loved more because they're better customers. That's just kind of how it works. And we had to understand what that meant as well. We put a process in place to address that seamlessly. I'm not quite sure it's seamless yet, but we're getting there. Almost first year, we've had this integration done with our companies, and we'll continue to make it better. And more than anything else, now we're having great conversations across the entire business about what's working and what's not working. And we can't shy away from what's not working. People will sometimes get a little nervous about bringing up not a complaint, but a problem. And quite frankly, if you're in a good business, you have to welcome that as another opportunity to get better. So I think our team, our new teammates that we've had to integrate with our new company, are starting to learn that. And it's been very rewarding. It's been great to see our progress made. And it's evident by the fact that last year, our company not just grew through the acquisition, but organically, just our own sales. We grew by 20% last year. And that's way outpacing the marketplace for which we serve. So I think our team is doing a great job.
Wow, that's definitely some of the power of answering the call when customers want to give you business. Also, it sounds like there's some knowledge transfer that happens between the different sales teams about what's working. Do you have a way that you're doing that with operations teams? I know they're probably not all making the exact same product.
Yeah, we had to create centers of excellence, which is how we kind of optimize our operational teams last year. We've done that now. And what the structures that we have now are our go forward plan. They're doing a great job. But every day we have daily management. That's an immediate way of talking about your business. We talk about, first and foremost, our service, sales, what's been booked, any issues we have, what's our plan for the day. And it's a quick call, the quick MS Teams call where everybody has the visibility of each other. We talk about our businesses. We're sharing what we're doing. So they're sharing best practice there. They're also asking for help, which is great. You know, hey, I don't have this. Does someone have this fixture, this tool? Does someone know how to make this? And because they've had such a great history Some of our companies go back 100 years. So as you can imagine, tremendous amount of industry knowledge. On average, our companies have been around for 40 or 50 years. So it's great to have all that knowledge and detail with our supervisors, our managers, our operators. So we share that. That's a daily thing. But another way of doing it is that we hold Kaizen events. These are lean project events that are planned well in advance. And we're looking at how we can improve our company. And it really starts with understanding what value do we give to our customers and how do we make that value flow as fast as possible in our organizations, from order entry to shipment. How do we make that happen very fast? And so we just held a Kaizen event was it last week or the week before in our operation in Olive Branch, Mississippi. And we had teams from various sites, some leaders from various sites come and be a part of that Kaizen event with the Mississippi team. And they did a great job of improving quality, productivity, reducing safety issues, improving the flow, improving the output by, I think, 26, 27% on one singular work center. So again, great way of sharing knowledge. When you do that, the other sites that have the same customers or same processes could just take that, the current best way of doing it, and make that their new standard. So we've been really successful at doing that. We typically have one Kaizen event each month, sometimes two. And it's usually cross-functional as well as involving others from their sites. And that's a great way of learning about your business and sharing best practice. So all those things happen. Our sales team actually next week is getting together with our annual kind of sales training and kind of conference we're going to have. And that's always a great way as well, because they talk about their business, talk about relationships, about the trends they see in the market. And again, they're sharing that across the entire company. It's a great way of picking up ideas, customers they may have in Utah. Well, that same customer actually exists as well in Connecticut. Let's make sure we're talking the same language and we had the same opportunity on the same product lines with that same customer. So another great way of sharing best practice and continuing to improve ourselves inside.
And how is the next Kaizen event scheduled? Is that operations leader raising their hand and saying that they have an issue that they'd like addressed and want to schedule it out? Or is it just rotating in between sites? How do you actually go about scheduling that?
Yeah, we look at really where we've got the most opportunity to improve. And we kind of set a schedule for about 6 months. And then we kind of relook at it again because we want to make sure it keeps fresh. So we kind of set the schedule January through June. Doesn't mean it's in cement, but we kind of laid out a plan for which site, which teams, and where the area of focus we believe will be when we get there. And I think the first 3 months or so, it'll be probably much right as we had planned it, but it could change in April. Something could happen in our business, something new could happen, whatever. And that might change what we do in April versus what we thought we would do at the end of last year as we made the plan. But you're right. An operational leader, a sales leader can say, hey, I don't know what's going on in this one site, but we've got to fix this. And I listen to that because that's very important. If a salesman's telling me we got a quality problem or an output problem or we can't seem to make this for happy, then that's high priority. Because again, it all starts with the customer and the value that we provide to customers. So they can certainly raise their hand. Doesn't have to be an ops guy. It could be a sales guy. It could be an engineer. It could be whatever. And we take that very seriously and try to find a way to immediately address that. If we can't, then we bring our team together and do a Kaizen event. So those are all opportunities. We do try to look at it from a perspective of we have certain objectives we want to achieve this year around growth and all the things we talked about earlier around cash flow and margins and all that. And we try to make sure that we're attacking the things that will give us the biggest benefit, where we know that we can make a step function change in some of these areas in these facilities to drive that. So that's kind of how we do our prioritization.
Yeah. Looking at your sales growth goals, is that how you think about investing in new equipment? I feel like I've seen some posts on LinkedIn where you're rolling out some new equipment. So how do you think about where to invest in the business?
We always look at, where the market's going, where do we have capacity opportunity, where can we automate certain things that will make it a better quality, more repeatable process that takes issues off of the operator as well. That could be a burden to them. So we try to automate wherever we can and certainly invest in technology. So that's an important part of what we do. Some of the posts you saw were probably some of our new machines that we're leaving, and we were building those and sending those out to our customers. So that was always great to celebrate our wins with that. But we invest every year into our facilities, not just our plants, but also into our office. We put in R&D labs into our facilities about a year or two ago. We are always upgrading the technology we have in there. We're going to be putting in some FTAR equipment this year. So we're always in the ways that we can improve the technology and our support of our customers, because we're really an industrial technology company. What we do is it's complicated, and we're in an industry that's typically very regulated. So things that we do have to be right every single time. We help solve problems for our customers. So we want to make sure we have the right technology to do that.
And your customers are mostly manufacturers and mining companies, things like that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've got products that are used everywhere. We sell on the 6 continents. We've got thousands of customers all over the world. Things that we make, they go into everyday life that maybe you don't think about, but if you didn't have them, you'd wonder, well, what the heck's going on? So our end user markets, I can list off a few. We work for aluminum companies, help them make alumina. We do mining and mineral processing. It's a very hot and big market for us all over the world. Chemical manufacturing is an important part of our customer base. Power generation, the fact that our lights are on and our heat's going and all that, we help support those industries as well. Cement, lime, asphalt, all the things that go into building infrastructure, roads, all those things. I mean, right now, it's one of our hottest markets. It's growing gangbusters. I mean, you probably know going to work every day, or if you travel, you see cranes in the air, you see road construction going on, new bridges being built, new buildings being built. That market, that's our customer as well. We help service them and make sure they're out in the field doing their work. Think about steel and iron industries, foundries. We help support them as well and help them manage their process efficiently and also cleanly as a regulatory requirement. Even electric vehicle battery manufacturing and recycling. We do all that type of work as well. Waste recycling. We're a part of that industry and helping them do that properly and safely and cleanly. Food, beverage, winemaking. We're at the wine symposium last week out in California with our team because we help winemakers make good Pinot Gris and good Merlots and good Cabernets. And we do all that. Agricultural, sugar industry is a very big part of who we are as well. It's an important part of what we do. What else? Biopharmaceutical or biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies. We help supply them with products and services that help their process go. And you don't think of us that way because it's filtration, but everything you do with those companies has to be filtered. Either they filter the good stuff to keep it or filter the bad stuff out. And of course, you think about everyday wastewater and municipalities and all the things that are built into a city or a town. That's us as well. We're all part of those solutions. There's a lot of other industrial applications, but you think about our company and what we're doing is we're an engineering solution really for clean air and clean water. And we design, manufacture, supply, and service all those industries throughout the world.
That sounds like your sales team has it cut out for them. Lots of opportunities, not exactly a focus, like a few people to go after.
No. So we have to have the best sales team, which we do, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So if you are giving advice to someone who's young, entering manufacturing, what are some of the things that you're advising them to work on in their career, either skills to develop? It sounds like there's traits to have are hardworking and humble, but more than that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things I could say about that. I think that I would get offered advice. I give it to my own 2 sons who are in college now. I tell them, hey, the essence of what we do is around creating value. How do you create value? How do you make something better? How do you make a person better? How do you make a product better? You make a system or whatever it might be better. So I think the essence of what we do is create value and make things better. So think about that. And you think about the key to any business and how do you continue to do that each and every day? Much like my company, much like Seraph does, you start with good people. You start with talent. You have to have talent around you as much as you can afford, as much as you can have. It's never going to be enough, but get as much good talent around you. And I think, as I said earlier, you said it already, but I'll keep on saying it, smart talent that is both humble and hungry, that wants to work hard, continue to learn, continue to evolve, listen, as well as also have a voice in the conversation as to what you're trying to fix or solve or come up with. That's very important as well. You want to, again, a team that's going to evolve and be better at customer service, be better at what you're doing as a supplier. And if you have that, and you bring that to work every day with a deep-rooted energy and passion for what you do, man, you're going to love what you do. You're going to do great things no matter what, I believe, no matter what a field of industry you're in, whether it be a nurse, a manufacturing person, a janitor, whatever it might be. You have those kind of attributes. Those are the things that will make you successful in life. So I think if I were to give advice, that's what I would give them. And I also tell them, hey, don't be afraid. Make decisions. Be decisive. I think it's an important thing as well. Be decisive. Don't be afraid of failure, because if you do, just kind of fail and get up and move forward as fast as you can. So that's an important thing as well.
My final question would probably be, when you're implementing these changes in a company and you have this plan, you've got the right people in place, what are some of the ways that you are able to make that transition go quickly, or that the transition to the company you're trying to get to, without compromising the important parts of the business that you'd like to preserve? So what are some of the ways that because private equity ownership is, like you said, only 5 to 7 years maybe. So how do you get things done fast and prioritize?
Yeah, I mean, again, you have to look and see what's best for the business. And even though our intent with private equity business is typically 4 to 5 years, it can be longer. For example, my own company has been owned by Vance Street for now going on 10 years. They actually took out an extended continuation fund for our business because they wanted to keep on investing in us and grow with us. So that's an important thing. They've done it with another company as well as part of Vance Street's portfolio. So I think the good private equity teams take a longer view. And if they can get it done in 4 or 5 years, they're happy to do it and move it on to the next opportunity. If it takes longer, I think the best ones will keep it and keep on growing the business that they have. So I think that the things that you do with a company, whether it be in 4 or 5 years or 10 or 20 years, you do it for the right reasons. You do it to make it a good company, to take what was most likely, at least in our industry, we're a little more of a lower middle market type of private equity team. We're typically taking small businesses that are ran by a founder for 1 or 2 generations, and there's a legacy there. It's very much a very emotional legacy as much as it is a physical, building a business. So you want to take care of that legacy. And certainly Vance Street's great about protecting that legacy, making sure it's scalable, making good decisions that while they might only have it for 4 or 5 years, they do it for the right reasons. They're really trying to make it a better business. And that's the reputation. That's the kind of companies you want to go work for. So I think the things that we do in 4 or 5 years should always be good things. You shouldn't do something that just is short term, that might hurt the company a year or two later. Those things don't work out. And I believe in most businesses that if you do that, eventually it's going to catch up to you. Karma is a bit of a boomerang. You treat people badly, eventually it's going to come back to you. So I believe you do the right thing for the right reasons, short or long term, it'll pay off. It'll always pay off for the company and pay off for the investors, the owners, whoever it might be.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Justin. Great to talk with you. And thanks again.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Manufacturing Excellence. I'm grateful for Chris for taking the time to share today. I especially like the way he uses aptitude tests during the interview process and then to guide the development of the Micronics team. I'll leave you with a memorable quote from Chris. Creating value is the essence of what we should be doing every day. Moving decisively. If you fail, fail forward and keep moving. Be persistent in all things. Manufacturing Excellence is produced by Seraph Consulting. To learn more about us, you can visit us at seraph.com or on LinkedIn at Seraph Consulting. Seraph is a specialized global strategy and operations consulting firm that partners with business leaders to handle their most complex supply chain, operations, and manufacturing challenges. Leaders from across the globe come to us to solve their immediate problems and capture their biggest opportunities. We deliver long-term operational improvements by working with leadership teams, plant floor to the boardroom, enabling our clients to transform their entire manufacturing operation. If you learned something from this conversation and want to make sure that you're able to hear future episodes, make sure to subscribe to this wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you on a future episode.